If you're watching this video, I've probably diagnosed you with a sleep disorder and we're trying to fix that. I usually will find that if somebody is fatigued, even if they get to sleep from 10 at night and they sleep until 8 in the morning, if they wake up unrefreshed, then that, even though the eyes were closed and the brain never got its relaxation at night. The brain rebuilds during certain stages of sleep. When the brain starts to nod off, when you hit the sack, until you wake up in the morning, there are stages of sleep. If you hit all the stages at least 6 times a night, then usually the brain is refreshed and you wake up even before the alarm clock goes off. And then you're not fatigued. And then there you go. You don't need any naps, you're good to go, you don't need any caffeine, and life is good. But the majority of Americans that I see, or patients that I see, life is not good. And sleep is usually truncated, it's shortened. I think I went to college and professional school after that, and then we get used to cutting down our sleep because it's not a priority. If patients using or bringing in their Fitbits, it might say there's no movement at all at night, which is kind of good. And I would still say go deeper with sleep. So that's one of the easiest things to do, is to challenge the sleep cycle. So I like things like valerian at night. Valerian and hops, great to relax the brain. Melatonin definitely helps with dream states and REM. So also low side effect profile, great to use at night. Something called 5-HTP will also induce a good sleep. But the ritual of getting to bed at the same time every night, calming down the brain, decreasing the sound irritation, decreasing the light exposure, making things comfortable so sensation and touch is taken care of, not going to bed with too full of a stomach, maximize on all that, even aromatherapy, and you stay awake, or at least you get your sleep done, but then you wake up in the morning and you recharge. That I don't mean with caffeine, but I mean with other things. And these are some of the other things that I use. Exercise will actually recharge you in the morning. Relaxation practice, believe it or not, will recharge you. It is calculated that about 10 to 30 minutes, 15 minutes on average, of meditation in the morning will give the brain what it needed as far as several hours of sleep. So for those of you who don't meditate, I think it would be something to invest in. But again, that's a long-term solution and hard to break in, but if you keep up with it, it'll keep you alive. So those are all important. I think caffeine is okay if you want to reset, but when you're getting past 1 or 2 cups, I think that's too much, because of the downside of caffeine is reflux, jitters, acne, and then the effects of caffeine can still last into nighttime. So, and then there's headaches, palpitations. So I would usually try to avoid caffeine. I switched off of caffeine onto loose leaf tea probably about 5 years ago, just because of the side effects of the coffee. A coffee bean, even if it's decaf, will still be stimulating. And yes, it's okay to initiate your day with that if you're trying to reset your rhythm, but my goal is to actually get people off of caffeine eventually. So resetting that rhythm, again, starting with a good ritualistic nighttime practice, including some ritual in the morning where you get up every single morning at the same time, the same ritual, maybe get a little bit of activity going to increase testosterone, wake you up a bit, not taking any naps, maintain 3 meals a day, hopefully protein dominant in the morning and carbohydrate dominant at night. That's why I had this. This is my wife's whey protein that she relies on. I'm a vegetarian, so I use brown rice protein. But putting in extra protein in the morning not only takes care of satiety and helps you if you're trying to lose weight, but it also cuts back on the amount of that insulin response. Obviously, if you can do whole food plant-based protein, better for you. And also, again, if you can try to invest in maybe B12. B12 is a short-term solution. Usually the toxicity of B12 is low, and B12 can actually work to stimulate. I have a lot of patients that are B12 deficient, and I'm giving them shots monthly in the office. There's no documented evidence for it, but a lot of the people I give B12 shots to say they're invigorated. They are stimulated, they still are able to sleep. It lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks. That's an option too, doing B12 in the morning. Again, relying, if you have to go with tea, try to stick with green tea if you can. There is caffeine in green tea. And there's also other side benefits to the EGCG component of green tea versus whatever you've read about coffee online, if you need it. I like using D-ribose in the morning. Jacob Teitelbaum is a doctor out of Hawaii who has been working with fibromyalgia sufferers for a while. D-ribose at 5 grams in the morning is what he usually suggests to initiate the day with his fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue patients. Now, it is a sugar, but it's without getting too technical about the D-ribose, it's almost like a basic building block that gives some of the cells a little bit, especially the brain and muscle, a little bit of food to work well. Let's put it that way. If you can feed your mitochondria, those little energy factories in each of your cells of your body, feed your mitochondria something healthy, then they'll work better. So sometimes jump starting the day with D-ribose or before exercising, not too late at night. All this stuff shouldn't be taken late at night. Having increased exercise in the morning, having more stimulation, avoid boring conversation and boring activities, monotonous activities. But if you do that, you keep your sleep ritual at the same time every day for about 3 weeks straight. Keep your wake ritual, same time every day, including weekends, including holidays, including 6 days, and you keep on waking up at the same time, and then you plan your meals. Even if you're not hungry, if you just plan on sitting down, smelling or tasting a little bit of food so you get the gastric acid flowing, turn on your peripheral clock, and you maintain that, then usually if you do that repetitively for about 3 to 4 weeks straight, it'll reset your rhythm. If you can retest that cortisol level at about 4 to 12 weeks, I think it would be helpful to see or make sure you're doing things properly. If you're just down in the dumps and you have all the side effects of problems and your doctor has ruled out any other diseases, then sometimes if it's just adrenal fatigue, and again that's disease process that was popularized by James Wilson, more of a naturopath, not really an MD, but still very powerful information. There is the use of hydrocortisone. It's also called Cortef. And hydrocortisone, if given to patients, will essentially be your adrenal cortex, at least your cortisone, during the day. So what I usually would do is start with a cortisone dose of about 10 in the morning, go to 5 at noontime or soon after that, and then another 5 or 2.5 in the afternoon. Then if you do that, high dose in the morning, lower dose at about noontime, and a low dose at evening time, and you keep on with that, it makes your cortisol available. It's not really yours, it's an outside source because it's a capsule. But if you provide that, in addition to doing your usual circadian rhythm things, eventually after you've set your rhythm, you've exercised, you've worked on sleep, worked on a relaxation response too, that will also help to eliminate or change around cortisol levels. And usually I would pull back after a couple of weeks on the hydrocortisone, and if you're successful with your rhythm, your body should be able to do it on its own. But again, you have to rule out disease. You really have to work on resetting your circadian rhythm and eating, hopefully, mostly whole food, plant-based diet, living anti-inflammatory lifestyle, working on stress. And sometimes, unfortunately, the medicines that you might be using will cause side effects that'll screw up your sleep or wake. And can't really stop the medicines, but you have to work with your doctor to look for those ones that are dominant with or have a higher side effect profile than others. And hopefully you're successful.